Hello,
Hello, the Larter Show. How
dude.
are yo?
It's it's time. It's time for another Larter show. Epic Larter show time.
Welcome back, everybody. Um, Today, as you might have guessed from the title card, we'll be talking about Chainsaw Man.
Chainsaw Man. Let me get our face cams up. Oh
All right.
shit. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Hi,
And then
everyone.
let me get that chat up. Chat's up.
All right. Chats up, chats up, and chats out to all the viewers out there.
Shouts out,
All right.
dude. Dude, that show was crazy.
Great. Yeah, I felt the same way the first time I watched it. I guess we can just get right into it. 'Cause well, let me just say a little preamble. So Chainsaw Man, I first became aware of this show as it was coming out. Like, I think I heard some rumblings about the manga when it released, which I think the manga came out in like 2020 or something like that, or like fairly recent.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, when the anime came out, at first I was like, just the name put me off. I was like, Chainsaw Man, that sounds kind of stupid. Um, and I was like, but then eventually I bit and I watched the first like 3 episodes, and that was all that was out at the time. And I just got so into it, and I read everything after
Yeah.
that, and religiously watched the episodes as they came out. And I'm still reading it to this day as it's coming out, and I'm very much into the series for a lot of reasons. But I'm glad that I got to share this with you.
Yeah.
Um,
So first, I was actually gonna ask you before, but I forgot to. Are we gonna get into spoilers? I think we kind of have to.
oh, sorry, I just heard you. Or maybe
Did
it was
I?
my head. But do we want to get into spoilers? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, I feel like we kind of have to because I feel like I don't know.
Um,
That's
I think we can try and go like maybe generally thoughts and stuff like that for a while, but maybe we can do like a spoiler start section
yeah,
at some point. But we'll keep it general for now, just on thoughts and whatnot. But yeah, we can definitely get into spoilers at some point. Because I
yeah,
mean, I think without talking about spoilers, there's definitely a lot that we can say, but I'm sure you want to talk about them.
yeah. Because there's
Uh,
specific like moments that I feel like are very
yeah,
like I really want to bring up because it's a very much
yeah,
it's a show that's like that. There's a lot of just like memorable moments throughout the whole
yeah,
thing.
definitely. Yeah. But yeah, I guess we can just get into it. General thoughts. What did you think of Chainsaw Man season one?
So yeah, I had known about this show for a while. I just hadn't watched it because I haven't really been watching as
Hmm.
much anime as I used to. Like I was
Hmm.
telling Lars before, this is like the first one I think I've finished since 2020, like around that time. I think the last one I
Yeah.
watched was Azumanga Daioh. So
Crazy tone shift from from your last anime you finished.
yeah, and so yeah, I loved it. I loved it a lot. Uh, it's like I don't know. It starts off like thinking it's gonna be one thing, and then it like
Yeah.
changes. It like changes what it is like three, four times like throughout the show, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like so there's so much going on, and there's so many different like character interactions and dynamics, and like characters introduced. So many
Hmm.
things happen to those characters that is just like
Yeah.
insane.
Hmm.
There's a lot of like just like it's just I don't know like how else to really like the main word I would use to describe the show is just it's insane. It's just
Yeah.
like I never knew what to expect just like watching it, especially on the second half of the show or like the last like four episodes. It like
Yeah.
I I I was just like there was like a whole like 10-minute increment where I was just like what the fuck is going on? Like how does why is any of this happening? But
Yeah. Yeah.
it was really cool. I really liked it. I'm really glad I watched it.
Yeah. Yeah, great. That's about what I expected
Yeah,
or hoped, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, on the surface, this is a show with like, as we said, there's like moments and things that like can be spoiled, that we'll get into later, but like I think on the surface, if you're just watching it like that, that's the main thing that like sticks out to begin with is like there's some crazy stuff that happens, some crazy shifts. I think the writer Tatsuki Fujimoto, he is really good at, I mean, I don't know, it's like a trite term, I feel like, but the subversion of expectations
yeah,
is something that he's really good at. But I think upon rewatch and something that I'm like, so I'm watching this now for I think the third or fourth time. I didn't finish it completely, but again, I've seen season one a bunch of times, so I'm very familiar with what happens. I think the thing that stuck out to me watching it this time as well is what's it called? Uh, the writing. I
yeah.
think the writing of this series is something that like all those other things we mentioned, like the misdirection, subversion, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it would work without any of like the strong writing and characterization that you get in like a really short amount of time
Oh
for
yeah,
a lot of characters in this series.
yeah, and like that's one thing that stuck out to me is just like how much happens, and like it's only
Hmm.
12 episodes. It's like a shorter anime. I guess it's kind of average
Yeah,
length, but you know what I mean. Like, but like
yeah,
it's it just so much happens, and I think
yeah.
like it's kind of impressive how much characterization they're able to put into something so succinct. And there is even more after that, obviously, because there's the ongoing
There's a
manga.
lot there's a lot more.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
but
actually crazy. I'll just say quickly like how this first season felt like insane and so much. And then when I read the manga, it felt like I had only gotten a taste like once I, finished the first like part as they call it. Um like this is basically just dipping your toe in, and like we're gonna have the movie soon, which we're gonna be talking about next week, which also has a bunch going on. But yeah, I mean this show I think is just really impressive with, like you said, how succinct it is
yeah,
in just the one season.
and like you mentioned the word subversion. This
Mm,
that's like such a like I think that's like a word that really applies here because like when you look at like anime discourse in particular, the word subversion is thrown around so much, and nobody knows what
yeah,
it means.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
uh, I don't know, like people call like I don't want to get into my Madoka Magica rant, but you know that show's not that show's not
Yeah,
subversive.
yeah,
But like people
yeah,
like just people call like anything subversive, and it's like a big thing. But
yeah.
like this show, I
Hmm.
feel like is like uh, it takes like tropes that are commonly associated with shonen anime and just like
Hmm.
completely like flips them on their head and makes you like and just makes you like what the fuck is going on with this shit. Uh,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
it's especially, and we'll get more into it. I think the show, especially in the first half, had a lot of interesting stuff to say about like sexual stuff, like and just like
Mm,
how like the show
definitely.
handles sex between the characters. I think like it
Hmm.
is really interesting, and you know, just we were
Yeah,
talking about this yesterday, where like you know, so much anime like fan service shit is like so
it's bad.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this show
Yeah.
it feels like it's commenting on that in a certain way and like kind of taking it into an interesting direction rather than just like, oh, she touched her boobs. Yeah,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, I think the word I would use specifically for how it portrays those kinds of themes is like mature.
Yeah,
Like I think it, you know, in movies and TV that have sex or whatever, that are not anime and not shonen, I think it's treated kind of in a different way than in most shonen. Like shonen, it feels like sex and like objectification and all that kind of thing. I don't know if you could say is like an integral part of manga and anime, but it's definitely a part of it.
Hmm.
And but it's never integrated or rarely integrated into the story in like a substantial way, and it's even more rarely integrated into the story in a way that's good. um,
Yeah.
and I think Chainsaw Man's depiction of sex and you know sexual themes is something that is both, I mean, I think more akin maybe to like Western or, just like traditional movies and TV shows more than typical shonen, but I feel like it baits you with the expectations of a traditional shonen. So you're kind of lulled into a false expectation, I guess, for how they're going to be handling all of that.
I know we're not going to talk about spoilers yet or quite yet, so I'm
Mhm.
going to use vague. I guess it's not that big because you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about when I mention it, but I won't
Yeah,
like give away. Uh,
yeah.
Out of like, there's so many scenes I just like didn't expect happening, but the puke
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
I remember just like
Yeah.
I wasn't like when that whole thing was like unfolding and like that like the whole
Yeah.
scene where they're like getting drinks or whatever. When that
Yeah.
happened, I love how in everything in the show that's the only thing that's censored is the puke.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah.
like I
Yeah.
wonder if there's like if there is laws like in Japan
There
against like
there must be, right? Like that's what I was
yeah.
thinking.
I
Yeah.
was like, that's weird that like that's the only thing that maybe it's just because it's so gross because it is, but like
It is. Yeah, even when it's censored, it like it makes my like stomach like turn when I see that scene.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just like that's like really I think like that's like kind of what makes like the sexual elements of the show interesting is that like when they happen they're either
Hmm.
like not hot or like which is like a kind
Yeah.
of crude way to put it but you know what I mean
Yeah,
uh
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
and they're like not hot or they're also like not satisfying for the characters themselves
Yeah,
which there's a part in particular that is like that stood out to me as I think like interesting commentary. But
for sure. Yeah, I think maybe one way to put it, and this is, I think, kind of maybe a little half-baked thought, but like one way I think of like, the objectification and stuff in manga and like traditional manga and anime versus Chainsaw Man, it feels like a lot of times when you're watching anime and there is like a scene like they call like a fan service scene, like again, the intended kind of like viewer or audience or like the intended like, people talk about like the male gaze, like that kind of stuff. Like in traditional anime, it's like those scenes are made for the viewers, it
mhm,
feels like. And a lot of times the sexual scenes in this show feel like they're made for the characters
yeah,
more so, and it feels like it's more you're watching it not because it's like, oh guys, check out this, blah, blah, blah. It's more like look at how Denji is reacting to this situation more so. And like I feel like in some ways like the object becomes more like, or I don't know if object is the right word, but the focus is on Denji, I would say more so than the woman in any particular scene.
it's also
um
interesting. I just like something that like stood out to me while watching this is that like Denji is like I wouldn't even say low key. I'd say pretty high key being like groomed.
yeah.
And like I don't know
Yeah,
like that like dynamic is like something you don't see in anime like ever and I think that's
yeah,
like interesting that we're like seeing like Denji being like, oh, this is like so awesome that these like hot like older women like me, or are not just like are
yeah,
just like willing to like put up with my horny desires, but
yeah, yeah,
but like they're taking advantage of him, and it's like it's kind of
yeah.
it's kind of crazy. I don't know. I always feel like I like
Yeah.
in my thoughts was just saying like it's crazy, but
I mean, I can't blame you. I think yeah, I mean, I think there's just like again, just kind of going to the mature thing. Like I think there's so many themes that are kind of hit on this in this series, and I think what's impressive about it too is like I mean, I just think these themes, one, are not explored that often in, anime and manga. And like, I think it's just also just like, even outside of anime and manga, I don't think there are many series or movies or whatever that explore these themes in this way so well. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's like I guess two layered. Like I'm blown away that a shonen anime would kind of like depict this with the grace that it is, and I'm just blown away by it in general. Like I think it's kind of you know punching above its weight, I guess.
yeah,
And I think that's really impressive for the series.
I was like because like I the standards for like what is appropriate for what age like in
Yeah,
America versus Japan are completely different. But there were definitely
yeah.
moments
We
of
talked
this
about
where it's
this last episode. I feel like with Shin-chan.
yeah, but like with this,
Yeah,
what's interesting is just like there's so many like not even just the sexual stuff. I mean just like violence. I'm just like
yeah,
watching this and I'm like this is considered a shonen. Like I
yeah, 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 yeah.
like I don't know. Like I mean maybe like when you say shonen, like I know it technically
Mhm.
means that it's meant for like high
Young boys,
school
yeah.
boys, but like
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe it feels like that term maybe has evolved into just meaning like a specific style of anime that kind of like
I mean,
fits those
I
themes.
think, I'll say too, like, I mean, people debate about this a lot, like what a shonen is and what is classified as. I know one definition people have like talked about is like that if something is published in Shonen Jump or,
Yeah.
something like that. And I do know, I mean, Chainsaw Man is published in Shonen Jump, but it's like kind of relegated to online only. Like I don't think it has like Shonen Jump has like big volumes where it's like chapters of a bunch of different series. And
Yeah.
I don't think Chainsaw Man gets published in that, but it's like online and then it gets its own volumes later on that get
Okay.
made. But yeah, I think it is maybe even for Shonen Jump. Like, I mean, there is another series. I think also maybe because I feel like the anime that you watch is maybe, or like the shonen that you've seen is maybe a little bit like, no offense, but like older now. I think, I think standards for it have changed a bit. Like Jujutsu Kaisen is another one that stands out to me. That like I like that show. I have a lot of thoughts about it. We don't need to get into it, but that one is also, I mean, definitely has. I would say maybe not the same level of violence as Chainsaw Man, but like comparable. Um, and yeah, but I do think yeah, Chainsaw Man definitely yeah, it's got ultra violence going on, and I think for me, something that like, and this is maybe less so about the violence, but just about the fight scenes in general. Like, I think this is kind of another subversion or trope kind of being done differently in shonen, where like I feel like the battle scenes are very different, just because to me they feel way more like I think the word I used before was like oh the word escaped me, but just like definitive, that's what it is. Like
Yeah.
all the battles are like definitive. Like something happens and in like in two scenes it's over, pretty much.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like in typical shonen they're really like dragged out and it's like, oh, I'm faking them out and you seeing all this like internal stuff, which like, that's not bad. I can enjoy that for certain things. But yeah, I mean, I think it's cool what Chainsaw Man does with its battle scenes.
I think the battle scenes are really cool in the show. Like
Hmm.
and I love how like gracefully the show manages to incorporate like CG animation into the battle scenes.
Yeah,
It's pretty much only relegated to like the battle scenes from what I've noticed and they all like look really good. Which
yeah,
I don't know,
yeah, for sure.
maybe just like since I started watching anime like what around like 2017, 2018. That's like when shows started to incorporate CG more, and they mostly look terrible. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of bad examples.
infamously, the 2016 Berserk series is looks
Yep,
really
yeah.
really bad. But
Yeah, it's
maybe I
depressing.
think maybe like the standards for that have just gotten better. And like,
I think it's also like a matter of like whether the studio or like the way it's being incorporated is like I feel like sometimes it can be like a crutch for the people like making it like spamming it kind of versus using it more sparingly along with traditional animation.
yeah,
Um yeah, I don't know if you've seen Beastars, but that one also has some CG and I think it's done mostly well
I haven't
and
seen
that
it yet,
shows well.
but
Hmm.
I saw a show by the same studio called Land of the Lustrous. That's really good. That's
Hmm.
also a CG anime that came out before.
Hmm.
That one's really good. I'd recommend
Yeah,
it.
cool. Okay. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm trying to think if there's any other like themes or things that I'd want to hit on. I mean, there's a lot we could dive into. I mean, maybe just a few things that we could do before we get into spoilers is talk characters.
Oh yeah,
Um, Yeah, at least like the main three, which I would say, or maybe four. Denji, Power, Aki, and Makima. I would say are like the big ones that people like to talk about. Because again, they're like I think just in the main three, you have again kind of like one of the tropes in shonen, which is like the main guy, the other main guy who's emo, and the girl.
yeah.
This is kind of like a trio that you see repeated a lot in a lot of shonen. Um, I mean, I mentioned Jujutsu Kaisen that has that trope as well. Naruto famously has like, Naruto, Sasuke, and the girl. Um, so yeah. But what did you think of their characters and what kind of stood out to you, I guess, about their characterization?
I really love the characters. I think I
Hmm.
talked about it, but Power was my favorite. I just thought like, not even that she's like the
Yeah.
most well written. It's just like I just think she's really funny, and I
Yeah.
love the dynamic that kind of grows between like Denji and Power. They kind of just like
Yeah.
because form this like weird friendship where they almost like don't
Hmm.
even acknowledge that they're friends. They're just kind of like they're like similar in like interesting ways. And
Yeah.
I think they kind of like
Yeah.
bond
Yeah.
over that. Uh,
Hmm.
Makima is the other one that stood out just because like uh, I never knew even by the end of it how I
Yeah.
feel about her morally because
Yeah.
I don't really know everything that's going on. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like I felt like as like at first I was like it feels like she's like kind of I don't know what the word would be like what's the word like I'm trying to think of like manipulative but not in like as like
Yeah.
bad of a way. I don't
Yeah.
know. It
Yeah. I
feels
get
like
what you mean.
but like it gets to the point where like okay she something seems like off here and then it gets to the point where
Hmm.
she's doing like straight up like fucked up shit and I'm like okay like this is like
Yeah.
okay I
Yeah.
don't know how I feel about this anymore and so
Yeah.
it kind of goes into like what is what she's doing like actually for the greater good or is she just like doing
Hmm.
this for some like weird power trip ego thing and like you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
you you can't really tell at least from this first season.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a great way to describe her character as well. Like beyond the first season as well. Like, I think, you know, it's like kind of clear there is something off, and she is like, yeah, like maybe manipulative, but not necessarily in a purely negative, like you don't want to ascribe it that way necessarily, but it's like it is interesting. I mean, just getting a little bit into the character of Denji, like this guy has been deprived of like his basic humanity basically his whole life, from what we've seen, and she kind of just gives him slightly normal things, and he is, you know, basically completely obedient to her and grateful and thankful for her for it. Um, and I do think, yeah, I mean, I guess just getting a little bit into like themes again, like for Denji, I think like what I think is interesting about the sexual side of the show is like it I mean, it's all about, I think, like human connection and
Hmm.
like someone who's been kind of starved of that connection their whole life. Something that we've seen, from Denji's, childhood and whatnot. And like that desire for connection and that starving of connection being a kind of like tool of leverage for characters throughout the show. Um,
It almost reminds me of
and
Evangelion in that way.
yeah, I was actually, yeah, I did want to bring that up. I think, yeah, I mean, I think it hits on a lot of similar themes as Evangelion, in that way, and like Shinji with his problems with, connecting with people. I do think, like, not to get too woke, but I think it does center women a bit more than Evangelion. Like I love Evangelion, but I do think, you know, just coming to mind like Misato and Rei are a
Yeah,
little bit like passive type characters, I think. Like just as far as like control in the narrative goes. Um, but I do think in Chainsaw Man, like I would say it feels like most of the women characters are more in control of
yeah,
the events of the series than most of the male characters,
yeah,
which I think is a like it's not like I think all series should do that and that's like whatever kind of like straw man, but like I think it is cool that there is a series that does that, especially given that like I just think Shonen has a history of not doing that.
yeah.
um and yeah, but sorry, I got a little bit off track there. But yeah, I do think Makima is a really interesting character, and obviously I've read the entire thing, so I have more knowledge of her character than you do. But yeah, I mean, I think your assessment is good, and I think she kind of in a lot of ways continues to be that way, where you kind of don't know where she lies, but she's uh, you know, interesting to watch, I guess.
And then like just talking about like Dingy as a main character, like I
Hmm.
think he's just like really interesting. And I was like talking with you about this, how it's just like his motivation is that like his life just completely sucked and like nothing, like he was just being deprived of everything that's like good in life, and then he like finally is like kind of being treated with some level of like human dignity, and like is actually being
Yeah,
afforded like the needs that he needs, and
yeah,
then like uh his motivation to that point becomes just like, I'm gonna stay here with the public sector of what are they called, devil hunters,
the Devil Hunters. Yeah,
just because like now I this is like how I can live. But then like he
yeah,
kind of realizes that like that's not really a big motivation, I guess. And then like
yeah.
it gets to like there's like the scene where he just killed a devil, and
Hmm.
he's like, everyone around me has their motivation, uh
Hmm.
and I I realized that like I'm feeling great because I'm finally having all this
Hmm.
stuff afforded to me, but it feels like something missing. And I think that's just a
Hmm.
motivation by it. And then he just like thinks for a second. He's like, "Oh, I really want to touch Makima's boobs."
Yeah,
So he
yeah,
decides
yeah,
that that's going to be his motivation. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's really funny that like
yeah,
it's just like obviously as it goes on you don't really get the feeling that that's all he cares about, but like just like
yeah.
that at that point in his life, that's all he could think about. It's just like
Hmm.
it's. I think it's funny.
Yeah, I think you kind of you said it in a way that I agree with, and I want to expand on like the whole idea that like, the way he's kind of talking to himself and expressing his motivations is like all through this like sexual stuff, and he's like, that's all I kind of want. And in some ways, I do think there is kind of some like commentaries on like masculinity and like the roles of masculinity, where like
Yeah,
I think truly it's like not that hard to see. Denji wants connection with humans. Like he wants
yeah,
human connection, and it's something that again he was like deprived of, not having parents and kind of being seen as a tool his whole life. Um, like, and I don't mean that like he was a dick. Like tool is in like being used for other means, and like uh I think in his own conceptualization of himself he can't see his desires as plainly as being like, I want to be close to someone and feel like I have like a family or connections with people. And like I feel like for him it just kind of manifests in like, I want to have sex with someone because that's I think what I need and what feels good to me and what is the thing I'm wanting. But I mean, without getting into spoilers too much, some of the times that he gets the thing that he wants, you know, it doesn't hit the same. I think we've gone black a little bit on the stream. Our faces disappeared for a moment.
oh, they should be
Okay.
back now. That's
Okay,
my bad,
we're back.
I
Hi,
think.
everyone. All good. Um, but yeah, I think that he, like literally just throughout the season and like as, further on in the series, I think like, he kind of will get what he wants, quote unquote, which is like some sex thing. Uh, but like, you know, he realizes that what he wanted is not necessarily actually what he wanted, but he
Yeah,
still doesn't understand it, and it's something that, you know, he has trouble understanding or putting into words, like this whole thing of human connection and being able to connect with people and have like, I mean, maybe like a safety net, a social safety net or whatever, whatever you want to call it. Just like people who he can depend on and depend on him, you know?
yeah. Uh, I was like, I while watching this, I remember like I specifically I was watching like the beginning of the show, and I was kind of
Hmm.
like comparing it to other anime I've seen that do something
Yeah.
similar like differently. And for some reason I
Hmm.
couldn't get I think you've mentioned you've seen this show and I've talked to you about it, but you know Dead Man
Hmm.
Wonderland?
Yeah, I watched like 2 episodes, I think, but yeah,
I
I,
that's
I know.
like
Yeah.
I just specifically remember that is I watched the first episode of that. It was the worst episode of
Yeah.
anime I've ever seen. And
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, it's just like uh I just like I don't know if it's even like that similar, but it like kind of reminded me of it just because of like like the main characters just being treated so horribly at the beginning.
Hmm.
Denji is,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and uh, like that's kind of the same thing with Dead Man Wonderland. And I think what the difference is that when I was watching Dead Man Wonderland, it just felt like the show was just being needlessly cruel to the main character for no reason. And like
Yeah, yeah.
watching it with Denji, it just feels like it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like the show like hates him. It just feels like it just feels like like he's kind of being like dealt these hands. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it, but I had that on my
I'll just
mind while
say
watching it.
that's a great point of comparison, and I want to say more about that. The one thing I will say, about it doesn't feel like the show hates him. That's like a classic like thing like people kind of say about the manga. Like kind of later on in the series, they're like, I don't know. It's like a meme that people say like we need to kill Tatsuki Fujimoto because of how he treats Denji.
Uh,
Like yeah. But I do no. I think what you're speaking to, or what I would say about that is interesting is like I do think Deadman Wonderland is like the cruelty and stuff that he's faced with is so contrived.
Yeah.
so contrived and so stupid.
Yeah, that's it. It's
Yeah,
because like when you watch Dead Man
yeah,
Wonderland, it's like it literally makes no sense. Like you're
yeah,
watching
yeah.
it and like this kid just like watches this
I mean, we
entire
should just
class
let's
die.
just say it. Yeah, like basically the guy, a kid is in a high school class and a ghost thingy, whatever, I don't care, kills everyone except him. And like and then he goes to court for it and his public defender is like evil and they're like, "We're sending you to jail because you did it." And he's like, "No!" Like
And
it's just so yeah.
it's like who would suspect him, like this like scared kid just like and like
Yeah.
everything around him is just like destroyed and like they're just like, oh, he did it because he's the only one left. Like that doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
I think it has like it felt like very clearly manufactured to create drama more so than like a thing that will naturally occur from how characters kind of like exist. I think like yeah, I think what's good about Chainsaw Man 2, also just like as a side thing, I do think, Denji himself, something remarkable about him is like kind of his like outlook on life and the way he kind of like carries his trauma. Like I think, from the outset, if you were to see a random scene of Denji, like he seems like kind of like a positive, silly, random guy who's just quirky and whatever. But I do think, the way that his kind of trauma and past stuff manifests itself is not through like, "Ah, I'm gonna get revenge on all the people. Ah, this is so messed up. I'm gonna go into the Dead Man Wonderland now." Like it, it's. I mean, I think I don't know, for lack of a better word, like I just think the writing is way better. And I
And it's
think
like,
the characters are like, more than meets the eye, and there's a subtlety to how all that stuff is communicated.
there I feel like that's kind of a common character trope like in anime where it's
Hmm.
like I think of like and like I know these characters like get developed like more so,
Hmm.
but like you think of like a Goku or like a Luffy, a
Hmm.
character that's kind of just like, like I don't really care like what's going on or just like really like who is like he just cares about like I don't know how to put this. Do you know like where I'm
I get
going
what
with
you're
this?
meaning. Like the positive, like I'm gonna get the bad guy type. Like I feel like it's like a Spider-Man type
Yeah,
character.
where
Yeah,
like when you kind of see him, it doesn't feel like he has that much of a motivation outside of just being like like
a good,
fighting
awesome guy.
evil, it being good and
Yeah,
awesome, and but like as you
yeah,
go into it, like there is something deeper there, and I feel like
yeah,
Dingy is kind of like you get into it, and it's like you kind of introduced to like him being that kind of character, and also you kind of get some of his motivation in there, like intertwined like
yeah.
immediately, and I think that creates like an
Hmm.
interesting character.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, on the surface looks like your typical anime protagonist with like, parents dead, had a messed up life, so now he's gonna be awesome and stuff. But he's always kind of had this like, I don't know, like grayness to him and like I don't know, like his trouble kind of follows him in a way that's untraditional for characters. Also, I like how in some ways he's not really like a good hero, like not a it's not like he's like an anti-hero, but like just speaking of like one of his first devil fights, there's a moment where he like grabs a car,
Yeah.
and there's a guy inside the car, and the devil's like, "Oh, you trying to save all these people?" And Denji's like, "Oh, I don't care about the people. I just want to throw this car." And then the guy
Yeah, he
jumps out of the
throws
car,
it.
but he throws it, and I think that's fun too. Like again, and also like not a traditional thing. Like in anime, you usually get the you know, you either get like the fully good, fully awesome protagonist, good guy, or anti-hero guy who's bad and good, and it's usually not done super well. And I think Denji's kind of like neither of those, in an interesting way. I want to respond to what Marcy said
Yeah, I was
there
gonna
because I
say.
totally agree. I think, yeah, the fact that he is a kid is like it's a, I mean, that is what it is, right? Like yeah, he hasn't processed his childhood, and I mean, in a lot of points throughout the series, you'll see him depicted as a child. I actually have a poster right here of Denji as a
Whoa.
child there with the door. Yeah, I was just looking at that while I saw the comment. Um, yeah, and he said, yeah, I think I remember he says at some point, like, I think I'm 16,
Yeah, he's not
because
even
he
completely
doesn't.
sure.
Yeah, he doesn't even know his like age. But yeah, he hasn't really processed his childhood and he hasn't matured. But like, I guess what is kind of endearing or nice to see is like he is kind of grappling with that and trying to, process things and exist as a person, even though he kind of has like the, you know, outside appearance of just being like a guy who wants to do good things or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I guess before we do get into spoilers, because I think we're approaching the point where maybe we would want to talk about that. One character we haven't talked about yet, Aki.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
so I want to hear your thoughts before I say anything.
Aki, I feel like has room to become more developed. Uh,
Hmm.
because uh, for like right now, I just like I think like he's interesting. Like with like we'll get into what's her name? What's the girl's name? Himeno.
Himeno?
Yeah, her
Yeah.
his relationship with Himeno, I think, is like very strong characterization, and you kind of like get like
Hmm.
what everything that happens with her, and then like how it affects him. I think there's like interesting
Hmm.
stuff there. I do feel like, and
Yeah.
this isn't necessarily like the show's fault. I just feel like
Hmm.
it's because I've only experienced part of it. I
Yeah, and it's
just
all
I
fresh, you know?
yeah, I haven't like I
Yeah.
didn't feel the same level of connection I did with him as the other characters, but I'm just like that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I can't expect me to like feel that connection with every character like immediately, you know?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I'll say I like Aki a lot. I think when I first watched it, he was kind of like, yeah, like a sleeper, like character more so, just because I was like, yeah, he's like chill guy. But I think, yeah, his relationship with Himeno and like, I mean, what did you think of his kind of like backstory motivation? That scene, like, I kind of like got teared up again when I watched it. But even though it is kind of like boilerplate, what did you
Oh,
think of
the
that?
okay. I had to like think for a second to remember the snow
Yeah,
scene.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that scene
yeah,
was like was fucked up. Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's one way to put it. Uh,
Yeah.
it definitely just like I don't know that whole like sequence was interesting because like
Mm,
that's kind of like because it kind of like because it's talking about that like in conjunction with the Gun Devil.
hmm.
And I think the Gun
Yeah.
Devil is interesting because like you get into him, like the stuff with him, and like that's kind of
Yeah.
where like you get a little bit of like almost like social commentary from that, where like it kind of
Mm,
talks about that like with the like
yeah.
guns and like almost like a kind of like war on terror commentary that it almost gets into. I
Yeah.
don't
I
know if
mean, they
that's
mentioned like
expanded.
a terrorist attack. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's expanded upon, but I would see the parallels and commentary is definitely there, I think.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
just like it's very clear like that his motivation is there. It seems like everyone in this story except for Dingy has been like fucked over by some way in some way by the Gun Devil, and it's just like
Yeah.
that kind of makes their motivations more obvious.
Yeah, I think Aki to me I've now grown to like really really like his character. I think he like in another anime or manga, I feel like Aki would be the protagonist and I feel
Yeah,
like Denji would be the side uh comic relief character or something,
yeah,
you know? I think he does have, kind of a more traditional and standard. I mean, not just for manga and anime, but just like character motivation, like revenge. That is his whole thing,
yeah,
right? Um, and he, I think he's I think there's a lot of layers to him that like it took me a while to like fully appreciate. I think like his smoking as like a symbol is like very like says a lot about his character. I think it's fun because he is very much like a type A person. And just talking a little bit about the differences between the anime and the manga. So do you remember that scene where like I think it was like maybe the third episode or something where Aki wakes up like, does his hair, brushes his teeth, reads the paper and like makes coffee and all that kind of thing?
Yeah,
You remember that?
yeah,
That was not in the manga. That was a addition for the anime, which I think was a benefit to the anime, and I actually really liked. But I think, I think for him, his whole thing of being like revenge and very just like type A, straightforward, like I'm gonna do this thing, uh, is like very compelling. And I do think, I mean, we'll kind of see this develop, but I mean, by the end of the first season, I do think it's like, kind of endearing, and stuff to see Aki is he kind of becomes like a rock for Denji in a lot
yeah,
of ways with his like consistency and his desire to get this revenge kind of driving him to keep going in all of his efforts in the public safety department. And I do think it's also kind of fun seeing how he, started out kind of being like an asshole kid. And everyone, even like in his like horrible traumatic scene, like he's kind of addicted to his brother.
yeah,
Um, and when he first joins, everyone's like, oh, this guy sucks. And, I think to see how, like, he doesn't really soften, like, he is still kind of a dick. Like, the first time he meets Denji, I love that scene. It's really funny. Where they kind of get into a fight and all that. Like it's not like he's mellowed out, but it's clear. Like I mean, I guess he has in ways that are less apparent, and like you can tell he cares by the end of the first season. He cares about Denji, and he cares about power, despite his kind of like revenge, motivations and whatnot. And I do think, I think it is like a little bit of a trite message in some ways, but or not trite, but it's done a lot of times. Like we've heard this one before, but I do think it's still very effective. This whole idea of like revenge, not it's not all it's chalked up to be, and it hurts you and it damages you, even if you think it's going to help heal you in some ways. And I do think it's interesting because we see in some ways like Aki kind of being healed outside of the revenge, like outside of the Gun Devil stuff, and his kind of conversations with Himeno about going private and not doing the public safety stuff because of the danger that's associated with it, uh, are very interesting. I think how he kind of has these two things going on with like the public safety revenge quest that he's on and how that's not really helping him, get closure or whatever. And then the stuff with Denji and power and all that, I mean, at first it's just stupid and sucks, but you can kind of see them forming a bond and kind of becoming closer and maybe giving him more closure than like the Gun Devil stuff could. But, I think, yeah, I really like that. I mean, we're gonna see it. You'll see it develop more, I'm sure, in the movie as well as later seasons. But uh, yeah, I love his character. I think the first season, yeah, I mean, and we didn't talk about this either, but Power has a cool little backstory as well.
yeah.
Did you want to say
Meowie.
anything about that? Yeah, with Meowie. Um, but yeah, we can get into that. But I do just think this the first season was so good at succinctly telling backstory and motivating and grounding all the characters that we work with in a really short amount of time, but still really gives you like a good impression and wants you to see more of them, you know?
Yeah. Considering we have like 10 minutes left, I want to
Yeah,
uh I want to get into some spoiler stuff because there's definitely like
let's do it.
stuff I want to talk about. Okay, I
Yeah,
think it's episode 8. Uh,
yeah.
like okay, but I just like
Spoilers, go.
I'm gonna give y'all a warning that we're gonna get into massive spoilers for what's
Five,
about to happen for
4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay,
Go.
so like in episode 8, like 75% of the characters in the show die. Uh,
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
all the main ones. What's her name? I keep forgetting her name. Himino. Uh,
You may know. Yeah.
Himino. She dies.
Yeah.
And like it feels like they uh had all that happen at just the right point where we just feel like we're really starting to understand these characters, and it just like the way it happens, it
Yeah.
like not only shocking, but it also just like
Yeah.
uh it hits really hard. I mean, you have this train scene where
Yeah.
Makima gets shot, but like
Yeah.
Makima, like it shows like pretty soon after that she's alive, and I still don't know. There's something up with her. Uh, it kind of revealed like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
all the characters like they had since they're like devil hunters, they have to like make a contract with a devil, to like
Hmm.
gain
Hmm.
this sort of power, but they have to like give up something,
Yeah.
usually like a body part, in return for that.
Yeah.
You kind of get uh, a glimpse of what her devil power is later in
Hmm.
the show, but you don't really
Yeah. The
understand it.
the
She's kind
thing.
of like doing this.
Yeah.
She has like these people who work for her. She has them get like some like life sentence, like death row
Convicts. Yeah.
inmates, and like just like
Yeah.
does this like weird thing where she like does this with her hands, and then like these
Yeah.
characters like from in a different town just like explode, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
inmates die as well, and it's just like it's like what the
Mhm.
fuck is going on, like
Yeah.
that's like the
Yeah.
point where it's like you're really starting to feel like, okay, I don't know if she's a good person. uh
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but yeah, that and Himeno's death really hit hard.
Oh, that one hit. I mean, every time I watch that, I get a little bit choked up. Like I think that scene was just so like well done, but also just so sad.
And like Himeno, I feel like you get a lot about her in just like the few
Mhm.
episodes she is there. I mean, just like
Yeah.
like the whole thing is that like, I mean, I mentioned the puke scene, uh, where
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
the big thing that happens is that like in like an interaction, Himeno is like to Denji, okay, if
Mhm.
you slay this devil,
A
you
different anime,
yeah,
Demon Slayer.
if you slay this
But yeah.
devil, I will kiss you on the mouth.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then they're like drinking together after they slay the demon,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's gross. She kisses him and pukes in his mouth.
In his
But
mouth. Yeah.
this is like where
Uh,
you kind of realize that Himeno is low key like kind of grooming him, uh, in a
yeah.
weird because this is like where it reveals his age. He's like, oh, I'm 16,
Yeah.
and then like
Yeah.
Himeno like still goes through with everything she does, trying to have sex with him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
and that's an interesting moment for Denji, where it's like, like he's like that's one of his main goals is to have sex, and then like he finally
Yeah.
has that, but he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it
Yeah.
because I want to do it with this other woman, and I think like there's
Yeah.
just like I don't know, it's like I yeah, it's interesting. I like how it handles
Hmm.
that, and then like it just like it feels like there's I was like almost like trying to decide how I feel about. I thought she was like a really interesting character. I liked her, but
Yeah.
I was like in my mind, I was like, okay, I wonder how this is going to turn out like morally. And then like it seems
Yeah.
like they were almost going
And
to
then
form
she
like
just,
they were like
yeah.
her and Dingy were going to form like this little alliance to try to get
Yeah.
uh him and Makima
Yeah.
together and her and Aki together, and then she dies like
Yeah.
immediately after.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
very sad and very tragic.
Yeah.
And then like there's a bunch of other devil hunters that were introduced
Hmm.
like briefly, and that most of them die
Immediately get shot in the head.
except for like
Kobeni.
Kobani. I do wonder
Yeah,
about Kobani. I wonder what's gonna happen with her because like she was like I
yeah,
was like because I was like when I was watching like the whole thing where they were in like the kind of like hotel and they were in like the
yeah,
loop like where time was
yeah,
frozen they
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
get out.
Eternity Devil.
I
Yeah.
was just like this is just like a this is just, she just like sucks like why is she here like how did she even
Yeah.
like get it
Her.
and like it kind of explains it but like she's also it also it's
Mm,
just like how did she even get in this position like she's not doing anything but then like it shows
yeah.
her being awesome and then it's just
And
like
she
what
locks in.
yeah and then
Yeah.
she was geeked and then she got locked in uh
Yeah, yeah.
and and like it obviously still shows her as a very like anxious like scared person she like doesn't like what she's
Mm,
doing but like she clearly is
mm,
very strong and I just wonder like
mm.
what's gonna happen with that I think like there's a lot that
Yeah.
could happen with her that I'm excited to see more of.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I yeah, I mean, I love that episode, like just that whole scene with where everyone gets shot. I think was really impactful. I think by that point I had started reading, and it's so fast because it's just one panel, someone dies, next panel, someone dies. Flip the page, four
Yeah,
other people have died. Um, and I do like how they kind of slowed that moment down in the anime and made it like more cinematic, with like kind of like the slow motion and the music and all that kind of thing. I thought that was done really, really well. I Yeah, I think that whole sequence was just like super impactful. I also really liked the training sequence afterwards
yeah,
with the guy. I'm blanking on his name, but he looks like Mads Mikkelsen with
yeah, I
the
can kind
cut
of see that.
here. Yeah, yeah, I love that guy. He's like one of my favorite characters, but I'm blanking on his name. But
That's kind of where you
yeah,
see
and then
some of the stuff between Dingy and Power. I love the
yeah,
scene where they like try to ambush him,
yeah,
and like they
the smart tactics.
yeah they're
Yeah,
wearing like glasses and they're like
yeah,
I like the scene
yeah.
where they're like they're at the bar and they're drinking and like uh Power's like I have a really high IQ and there someone's like oh what's
Yeah.
your IQ and she's like oh 100 and and someone else like
Yeah.
my IQ is 120 and she's like oh actually I think my IQ is like 500 it might be like 1,000
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's just like
Oh, yeah, that part's so good.
yeah
Oh, yeah, no, Power's great. There's like a scene of her that's like so funny, but it's probably gonna be like years until it gets animated. But yeah, I love Power. Power is like easily one of my favorite characters in Chainsaw Man. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the death scene is definitely one where like when I watched that or right for the first time I was like, "Oh, this is like not the kind of show that I'm used to." You
yeah
know,
I
like
was like yeah pretty
this
much
is
the
something
same
else, and it really is, I think, like a harbinger of things to come in the series. And like, not to say that 75% of the cast dies every other chapter or anything like that, but you know, things are impermanent and constantly changing, I think, in the series, which again is in stark contrast to, I would say, most TV shows, even as well as like most manga. I think a lot of manga is characterized by like the same people doing the same things ad nauseum, with incremental changes going on, which is fine. I don't think that's like, all anime or manga need to be like Chainsaw Man, but I think having a series that's so dynamic, so subversive, and so like in your face. I mean, when I first read it, it was just like a real breath of fresh air. And like I'm still enjoying it now. Every week, a new chapter comes out. I'm always excited to read it. And see what else Mr. Fujimoto is cooking.
yeah
Um,
I think after I watch the movie I think I'm gonna try to pick up the manga uh
Hell
because
yeah.
I want to
I
be
have
tuned in.
all the volumes. I have all the volumes of the first part. So I could lend you the ones for after. But I think Nick might also want to read it because Nick is also really into it now. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have him on for next week when we're talking about the movie, which I am so excited for. I've been
Yeah.
waiting so long for this. I feel like and it's hard to believe it's only a few days away now.
Yeah. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh yeah. Oh
Nick
yeah,
is
Nick
my
is my
favorite guy
favorite guy
too.
too.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Agreed. Shout out
Yeah.
Nick.
Shout out Nick. And shout
Um,
out to all of you
Shout out to the entire viewership of this show
and the Larter
and
Nation.
other people and the Larter Nation.
Do
Uh,
you have any closing
yeah.
thoughts?
Closing thought. I love Chainsaw Man. And I'm so glad we got to talk about it, and I'm so excited to watch more and talk more next week.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. Uh, Thank y'all
Oh
for
yeah.
listening, and thank you for showing me
Yeah.
Chainsaw Man. That was really fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
probably
of
wouldn't have
course.
watched it if, at least not anytime soon, if you hadn't showed it
Yeah.
to me. And I'm really glad I watched it. So hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone. This has been a blast. Uh, and I'm super excited to see y'all next week.
All right, I'll see y'all
All right.
later. Bye.
Bye
Peace.
bye.
Bye.
Peace.